Hello guys, this is a 50-year-old steel boat with an aluminum superstructure. And what I thought that I would do is do a little walk around. The boat's kind of, it's up here in storage and all that, but there are a lot of places that rusted and places right next to it that look next to near new material, metal on a 50-year-old boat. And so I just kind of wanted to do a little walkthrough and maybe give you some ideas of what caused the rust and what the rust looks like on the kind of the far end of the boat's life. So we look right here. See this? That's actually, I've actually filled that a little bit with some bubblegum type gunk. And so why did it rust there? Well, we're going to talk about just such a thing. Okay, so here we go. We look at the windlass. Now let's check this out. This is interesting. See, this is the pipe coming. This is just a pipe, a bollard pipe, to tie the boat off to. But see how the top of it is all rusty. See that? Now, why did that rust? Well, probably because I welded this stainless steel plate on the top of it. And so I welded that on there so I have someplace to come up and pound on, when we're out at sea and, I'm trying to fix things. And so that, but you can see the length of the distance that the steel reacted to that bit of stainless, even though they're welded together. Now check this out. Okay, so here is a toggle, and that one didn't rust, and yet that's stainless, but it wasn't welded on there. But still, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to kind of go down the boat, and now this is where the anchor dropped through, the hawse. Okay, now interesting. I have replaced this plate once already. Well, now that's a high chip and scratch area and all that. It's oh, hey, that might be the water filling. That's let's see if that's finished. Okay, now look at this. Okay, so this is a pipe rub rail going along. It's all looks great. So that's 50-year-old pipe rub rail. Oh, check that out. Now, what causes this? Look at this. Rub rail, that pipe is completely rotted out, and right there starts fine. We're back to the pipe looking okay again. Now we get back to the piece of pipe here. Now what happened? Well, I welded this stainless rail on here to attach blocks to connect the jib up to, and look what it did. That reaction right there. But now here's something interesting. This is original, and that's a bronze through deck fitting. And look at that. That's 50 years, been just sitting there. Stainless screws, bronze deck fitting, and no discernible corrosion. Although here, I had welded a pipe in there. To bring wires up on deck, and the pipe rotted off, and it looks a little sketchy. Okay, now what's happening here? This is a spot on the deck. See, look at that. That deck doesn't look too bad, for 50 years old. And all of a sudden we get here, and there's a big patch. So what do you reckon happened there? Well, I know what happened there. We had a dog for a number of years, and that's where the dog came and peed. It'd come from it'd come up that side deck. It'd get up here to where the rigging was, stop and have a pee, and then it'd turn around and walk back. And the pee landed on the deck, kind of right about there. Okay, well, so, okay, now what is that right there? Well, I had a big roller welded up here. That I had lined for a spare anchor for running around in hurricane season, paying out a second anchor. Okay, so now let's go down this side. Well, check that out. Same thing. That same rail. Pipe all pretty much not looking too bad. Get to right here. Okay, now this one here that I'm hitting with my foot, now that had a piece of stainless rigging on it. Thick enough that it can rot for a while, but nonetheless, you can see it there that it did start to rust away. Okay, stainless on steel right there, rusted away. Now, why did this one not rust? Like, look at this. These are now that one started to rust a little bit, kind of because maybe the paint broke or something. That that got caught on something. I remember something hit that and bent that stanchion a little bit. But look where the stanchion attaches to the deck. Now there's bolts in there. I never actually looked to see if these are actually bolted down. I've never actually removed one. Maybe what happened was because that different guy built this part. When we bought the boat, we bought it as a project in. Guy was doing a project and gave up on it, and we bought the boat from there. And so I never. So maybe see how that's got what looks like bolts. Well, maybe that didn't rust and that didn't corrode because it has a stainless plate bolted to the deck. Well, I don't know for sure, but it sure looks like that lasted a long time. Yeah, check this out. Look at these. These are stainless thimbles. Are they stainless? Yeah, I think they are. And look what that did to the rail right there. See, so those thimbles, that was for the running backstay. That's where we bit the running backstay into. And look what it did right there some years later. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now check this out. Okay, now check this out. Now, these are the glass going into the side of the hull. See them all there? See what we're looking at? Okay, now this one, that one was just put in with a rubber gasket. Now that's original, so that's coming up on 50 years old. But what's happening here? Look at how that is almost rusted away, almost ate a hole. Look at that. Almost ate a hole through the side of the boat. Well, at some point, we were going up to Alaska, and I figured these, well, you know, maybe these aren't tough enough. What if I stove one in? That would be a bad thing. So what I did was I went behind them with stainless acorn nuts and welded a stainless acorn nut, drilled a hole, welded a stainless acorn nut from behind. So I had a bolt hole that I could weld and put in. So I had a bolt hole that I could screw in my plexiglass plates if I ever started to lose a window. And well, look what that did. And that's a stainless acorn nut welded from behind. Okay, now check out this one. Yeah, how about this contraption right here? Okay, now let me just mention, this is a steel hull, steel boat, but this is aluminum. This is the aluminum superstructure. See, so that pilot house is all aluminum. Now we're going to come back to that. But I just want to show you because there's a lot of dissimilar metals happening mixed in right here. Stainless bolts with shoulder washers. So that's got a tube, a plastic tube that goes through where the aluminum and steel kind of all meet behind this stainless. And then this was all put together with a big old goopy gasket of Sikaflex 5200 type stuff. And so this flange, and the way this was built was that flange was bolted on to the top of the steel deck. So from the top of the steel up here, we cut off the old cabin top that was rotted off and put this aluminum piece and then built the rest of the aluminum cabin top off of this aluminum cheek that we had kind of installed there. But right here, look at this. Okay, so this is a bronze through hull, bronze port light. And even though here, right next to it, look at that. That's bronze, original bronze from the boat being built. And that seems to be doing just fine. And look right here. And what do we have? Well, we have the same acorn nuts. They didn't last too well. Look at the side. Look at the depth of that hole right there. Okay. These are little stainless bolts. And, well, that didn't look all that flash. Well, how about the aluminum? The aluminum came out just fine. That's just marine grade. I think that's 6061 or something like that. Just marine grade aluminum sheet that we just cut and put on there. Well, that seemed to last. In fact, as you go the whole boat, the aluminum to steel juncture had absolutely no problem. And that steel juncture is probably 30 years old, something like that. We would have done that in 1996, and this is 2026. So yeah, 30 years old. Okay, we go to the next one. Now, what's this window doing? Well, check this out. See, that is where the gasket came together. See, the gasket came at the top, and look what it did. It trapped water or something and got a big rust thing there. Well, how about the bottom? The bottom still looks great. Yeah. How about now see that acorn nut didn't do too bad. That one's not quite as good. Got a little bubble in the corner here. Okay, I'm just showing you because I'm not actually saying do this or don't do this. I'm saying this is what happened when we 50 years later, when we did the, after doing different jobs on the boat. And so I'm just kind of showing the results. And the boat's been through a lot of sea miles, like it's done its job. Okay, this window cracked. I don't remember how that cracked. I think a block came down and smacked it or something. Okay, look at that, swelled up here, where the rubber comes together, it trapped water. So, I mean, if I was doing that again, I'd probably put that seal at the very bottom so the water could drain and it wouldn't catch water at the top. And okay, here's another one of these, the same type of bronze port light. And that one I've gooed some goop in there because all the steel rotted away right there. Okay, now how about if we come up here and we look at the side of the cabin side here? Well, that doesn't look too bad. That all looks really good. How about here? Oh, look at this. Now that is those same stainless thimbles, and look what it did to the steel. Go forward, all that corrosion, and we go aft, and we get to that point. What's happening there? I'm not sure. You know, oh, actually, I do know. See, this here, those two bolt holes there were a chain plate, a stainless chain plate that used to come up over there. Somebody had put that on, and then I took it and I put a hole someplace down here and put a big. Oh no, I put the hole here. That's where I ended up putting my my chain plate. So why did this rust out? Well, bit of a mystery. Okay, how about this one? Look at this. Stainless comes down. Look what happens where it touches the steel. Okay, here we had stainless bolted. What did it do? Well, not as bad. How about this one? Okay, now this one, this is an aluminum pipe that comes up and does this this kind of aft area protection zone where you could sit out of the sun and out of the rain when you were going someplace on the boat. But look at that. That's kind of, well, that's kind of right there, isn't it? Now, this was a piece of stainless rigging. Was it the stainless rigging? Was it this? Was it some combination? Don't know. Okay, look at that. There's stainless into the steel. That chicken wire behind is to keep the rats from trying to climb through. Okay. Oh, now this is an interesting one. Okay, so that's a rail that's obviously totally fallen off. And look at that. See, there was stainless up here, down the steel pipe, and where that attached to the rub rail in this corner, right there, look at that. Rotted that corner right off. Yeah, that little combination. And then that also had a stainless kind of tube bent and smashed and put on, and it rusted there too. Oh, that's interesting. Now, how about this? This is stainless onto a stainless stanchion. Look where the stainless stanchion's on deck. That still looks good. Aluminum put on top of it. Aluminum pole put on top of it to get into this canvas cover thing. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now here's a bronze winch bolted down to a little winch pad. Well, that doesn't show any corrosion. Well, that's pretty interesting. Okay, now let's see. Now these were where we attached the mizzen stays, and they didn't do too bad. Okay, how about these windows? Okay, these windows would have been put in about 1996 also. And look at that. These windows have like no corrosion. They just made it. Okay, how about where the aluminum attaches to the steel down here? And I'm going to say this isn't getting a lot of attention or treatment. You know, it's okay. But now we come here. Oh, now look at this. Look at this. This one, that's the crack. I remember this is a different window. We had to change that window at some point. And we put the seal down below where the two rubber pieces come together. Look, it still did it. Still did it. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now, so now that right there, that's a pad eye, and that's just a stainless loop with bolts with nuts and bolts in it, and that didn't seem to cause any drama at all. How about where these hatches went in? So that's just a piece of angle iron with the hatch bolted to it. The piece of angle iron is just set into the deck, and that didn't seem to cause any problem. Okay, now how about this? Okay, this is a boom crutch, and this right here, this is all bronze from 1923. We found there was a boat that wrecked, and we took the rig off of it and put it on this boat. And so I took a bunch of the kind of groovy bits, like that's pretty well bent and everything. I thought, oh, how cool is that? And I came over here and just welded a piece of aluminum pipe onto the deck, and then just jammed that bronze right over it. It's not even bolted in or anything. I mean, there's nothing trying to lift it off of there. And check that out. So that's been there for many, many years. And because the rig was put on before the aluminum cabin top. So that's still all 1996. And that bronze and aluminum seem to be just fine. I'm trying to remember. I think I might have actually cut a piece of like plastic strip, like Delron or something, and put that in there. And so it had some insulator. I don't even remember for sure, but I kind of remember thinking about that. How about the boom track? Well, that didn't seem to corrode so much. In fact, much of this aluminum hasn't corroded at all. Come to think of it, yeah. Actually, much of this aluminum has weathered quite well, kind of better than the steel. I know the steel's 20 years older, but still. Notice the joint. Notice this aluminum to the steel. I don't think there's any place that is actually corroding. Okay, now I got some other stuff to show you. Okay, so now we're looking at the underside of the boat. It's a Colva and a Saugeen Witch. It's sitting up here next to my shop. Made a shop out of containers. That's a whole different story. Okay, so now we look here. So the boat now is sitting, it's kind of off the ground, mostly off the ground. And but what I want to show you are these. See, this would have been probably 2005. We were crossing the Pacific, sailing towards New Zealand, and we found a thin spot in the hull and said, oh, hey, that's pretty scary. Doing a lot of open miles. And so what we did was, we stopped in this little island, and there wasn't even a cutting torch, but I made a welding machine out of an alternator, belt driven off of a little diesel engine, and we came down here, and I put doubler plates all over the place here. See, and this is kind of what I want to show you is how the doubler plates handled. Okay, so for example, here I looked on the inside, and I said, oh, that's getting some rust, and so I put I welded that doubler plate on there. There's a bigger one. And we didn't have a cutting torch or anything, but we had a shear. So, and I could buy this like 4 mil plate, something like that, on the island in 4x8 sheets. I think they do 2.4 by 4 point something is how they were doing it. But anyway, so that, and so I could just go and mark off the sheets and they would just shear the sheet for me. So I just kind of wanted to show you how those pieces of steel have handled, and they show no corrosion. I know everybody says, oh, don't ever weld steel over steel. You got to cut out the old steel. It'll just make it worse. Well, I don't know. I know that this is many years old. This would have been done in 2004, and the boat's been in the water a lot since then. Okay, what's happening here? Well, that's where the rudder, so that's steel coupling to a stainless shaft. Wouldn't love that anymore, but it is original, so that's how that came out and held. Let's see, max prop, 22-inch max prop. Okay, now this was a piece of pipe, Schedule 80 pipe, that we passed through the hull. At one point, this would have been probably 1996 also. We took I cut the keel out here and faired the keel. And man, did that ever make a big difference. All it was just a square right in front of the prop before. And so I feathered down that piece of metal right there. And And the boat immediately, fuel consumption went down by probably by at least a third, and speed went up and RPMs went down. It was just like unbelievable, the difference. Okay, so here's another some of these little doubler plates. Okay, let's go over and check out this. This is a keel cooler. This is a keel cooler because we ended up putting a Detroit diesel, a 353, into this boat. So we put a Detroit diesel, a 353, and ex-military, so it wasn't marinized. And so in order to deal with the engine cooling, I put this keel cooler on, which is probably about 40 times too long. I don't know why we made it absolutely so huge. But I remember there was lots of discussion. It was like every technician from miles around came to give their opinion. And finally, I was just like, all right, fine. I'm never going to overheat. Look at that thing. Wow, what was I thinking? That goes all the way up there. Anyway, so if we check, that didn't actually do too bad. Okay, so there's a doubler plate. Oh, now this is actually the doubler plate where that was actually right there is where we were chipped on the inside of the boat and we got a hole. And so that's that's actually the worst of the worst was under that plate right there. Not too bad for all those years later. Okay. Hey, let's go look at the anchor from below. The anchor through hull, pass-through hawse pipe. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now those are a couple stainless, little stainless pads where the anchor itself kind of bounced around. Okay, I'll come up here. Yeah, where the anchor itself kind of bounced around. Now, how about this pipe? I remember I got a hole in here once, and I think I changed this pipe. And well, it's not that bad for that takes all the brunt right there. So it could be worse. Paint always getting chipped off. We put the seam of the pipe inside. That didn't seem to matter one way or the other. Okay, that's where the bow pulpit, steel bow pulpit, that's where that attached. And that got a little corrosion. Okay, well, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because I was walking around the boat the other day thinking to myself, would I have done these things any different if knowing if I could come forward in time now? I don't know. Eventually, you just get to where you say, you know what? I actually want to get to the other side of the ocean, and I'm not going to do that sitting here building a piano. And that was kind of the attitude. Just get it sealed up and keep moving. And had a hydraulic windlass. That was absolutely fantastic, man. I tell you, that was wonderful having all that horsepower right there in that little drum on the bow of the boat. Man, you could do all kinds of wonderful things with that. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there for anybody working on a steel boat. That might be there might be some usable bits in there that you can look at and think, well, could I get a little more longevity if I look at how this boat turned out? Okay, guys. Good luck. Bye-bye.